don't know why people want to keep pretending that that's an attribute people respect, male or female. Like nobody fucking gives that dude any respect. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But like, okay, I know this person who's writing a novel, right? And
Hmm.
they found this editor, right, at some group, like some small group. It's like writers talking to each other or a class or something like that. So they met there. She hires her because now they're friends, right? So she doesn't go looking for a real, doesn't look through the market for an editor. She just I guess that's another thing that women are more prone to do is hire people they think, oh, we met someplace and now we're gonna be business partners in some sense. So
Hmm.
this editor or this proofreader is basically fleecing her. I mean, she's taking all this money and not really doing a great job on her end. And then so she finally uh, goes to this editor, sits down in her office, and we had talked about it before. And it's weird. Some women don't understand women. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
because she had talked to me about this, and she says, "Oh, I'm not going to be able to afford Z's help anymore, or and also all these other complaints. Like, basically, it's just not worth it anymore." And I said,
Right.
"Look, for the love of God, let's just say it's an expression, for the love
Yeah.
of whatever, when you sit down and talk to her, all you need to say is that you can't afford it. Sit down, say that you can't afford it, and save
Right.
yourself a lot of grief. Don't give
Right.
her any other reasons.
Sure.
You'll never hear the end of it. She'll just have one kind of fit or another. Some women don't understand women. And
Mm.
so she sits down and has this long, feely conversation. It's like, well, I just feel that this and that and that and that. And so it's
Hmm.
Z breaks down crying.
Right.
And so she's relating the story to me, and I'm like, fucking told you so.
Right.
Fucking
Right.
told you so. You should have just said I can't afford it. Blah, 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 goodbye. And then just
Right.
never. Right. I mean, it's like that's such a. She either would have lost her shit or cried or both. But some women don't understand women,
Well,
right?
in a situation like that, first fucking thing you need to realize, okay, is that people in general are really shitty at internalizing,
Yeah.
right? So don't ever show up to this conversation, all right, with a myriad of things that, how should I put this? They don't need anything about you to like dislike or attach their failure to, right? So if you just go, well, it's just that I did this and I feel like this, and then there's this, and right, they're already going to come into this or go away from this with this attitude that it couldn't have been me. It had to be some fucking problem that you had or couldn't work out for yourself, and just you don't like me. And that people don't do a lot of internalizing, so don't show
Yeah.
up with a bunch of extra shit for them to hate you for.
Yeah.
Right? Don't do it. Don't fucking do that. Just like you said, the best thing to do is usually keep it simple and, try not to be too fucking aggressive about it and not too much information, really. Because they'll make up the rest,
Yeah.
right? Because people do the thing where I failed the class because the teacher didn't like me. My
Yeah.
boss is just a dick,
Exactly.
right? People do that thing instead of wonder why I got fired, wonder why I didn't get the job, wonder why
Yeah.
yeah, they suck at that.
Right.
So
I
you
mean,
can't,
it's
yeah.
exactly. It's like, okay, thanks, we'll call you, except that we won't. Just do that. But of course, no.
Right.
She talks about her feelings, and she is trying to find a nice way to say that Z is overpriced and a shitty proofreader,
Right.
right?
Right.
And
Hmm.
so Z starts in, she's crying, she's like boo hoo, and then she starts in saying how little money she makes from her other clients, and how her financial situation's so bad, and and all these other completely irrelevant. Just trying to fucking emotional blackmail on all fronts. Just a like a flanking maneuver, a fucking emotional blackmail, right? And it
Hmm.
amazingly it works.
Oh
It
yeah. Oh
works.
yeah.
And this friend of mine is like, okay, how about this? Um, we'll instead of just doing the regular readings at like $100 or something, I'll finish the rest of the novel, and then you can do it all in one fell swoop for $500. And Z's like 550 without missing a fucking beat. Without missing
Uh,
a fucking beat, she's like
uh,
550. I thought, okay, yeah, so those weren't crocodile tears at all. It's like, what the
Right.
fuck? What the
Jesus.
fuck? And I'm sorry,
Uh,
the story took on life of its own, but the point was, you know, I just cannot envision a scenario in which a male could pull that off, and not,
oh
and
no. Oh,
whether she thought it was serious or not, it wouldn't
right.
work,
Right.
right?
I could see a male doing that and somebody getting nervous and maybe calling the cops because they because they think maybe he's definitely going to shoot us, right? Like I could see it going that way if it were a guy, yeah. He
Yeah.
just
Now,
starts
but I
weeping
will say in
uncontrollably.
defense, I will say in defense of women, you know, and Cersei Lannister, that again, going with my class analogy, that's a shitty advantage for your class. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Being
it is.
able, I would hate. It's like, okay, well, okay, this gender gets swords, and this class fights with swords and can tank the enemy. This other class, their weapon is tears. You know what I mean? It's like there's always class balancing issues. Let's
And
face
then
it.
the other problem with that is you have to count on the person you're performing for to give a fuck,
Yeah.
right? You
Oh,
have
but
to
I mean,
count on the sensitivity
look,
of the person
dude,
you're crying in front of.
if it worked on a woman, it's gonna work on like 9/10 of males.
Right, sure, sure.
I mean, if look, at the end, I don't think actually went through with it. I don't think that she actually went through the deal where she's gonna edit the book. But I was amazed that it got as close to that as it did, because
Right.
this friend is telling me, and I was so offended that it turns out she was charging her clients less. I'm like, well, you knew that she was shit. You knew that she was shit at her job. You knew she was a shitty person.
Right.
You know, you only have yourself to blame. Why did you keep going back? But
Right.
here's the thing: if it had been a man, like he would have given this stupid editor woman his life fucking savings. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's the thing. It's like, okay, men deal direct damage and women are into these debuffs, but sometimes they're crippling debuffs. You know what I mean?
It's
I know that
fucking
a
crazy.
lot of people are gonna get tired of the RPG analogy, but it's true. Like, okay, it's like if you're playing an RPG, and there's some enemies, it's like, God damn, this guy's tough, and then you realize that, oh, blind works on him, confused works on him. Now he's just a helpless little infant in plate mail. You know what I mean? And
What's
that's the way it is with. And the thing is, if you try to cite that, people will just not count that as something concrete, or they'll dismiss it because like, well, you're just stereotyping. But it's fucking
sure.
a stereotype based on truth. Is that women will get shit using those types of tactics with a lot less effort, you know, than a
Sure.
guy gets, you know, just
Sure.
working his ass off at the fucking, you know, cleaning the grease traps at the goddamn Dairy Queen or whatever, you know. it's,
Right. Right.
it's just
Is
that
it?
I can imagine. I will say that there's a lack of dignity in being expected to live vicariously through other people and just say, okay, well, your strategy is to find other people who earn their shit and just manipulate the shit out of them, right?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, and that was what Women's Live used to be. I mean, it was originally about. It's like, okay, men, their survival mechanism was go out there and earn. Women's survival mechanism was go out and find a man and leech off of him, right? So
Right.
the
Yeah.
first generation of, you know, Women's Live were women who thought, well, you know, this is just undignified and unethical. I don't want to do this, right?
Hmm.
You can't not respect that,
Right. Right.
right? And
Sure.
like, there's some assholes who are like, "Oh yeah, women's lib is bad. They should have just stayed barefoot and pregnant." I mean, that's retarded. There's nothing more ethical than saying that you could, you know, lie, cheat, and steal for a living, or you could earn it the way, and that, you know, they're basically taking the high road, you know,
Sure. Yeah.
even when the low road, so to speak, has been socially acceptable for centuries and centuries, right? And that is just
Right.
live vicariously off of someone else, you know, manipulate his emotions and get him to, you know, get half of his shit, you know.
Right. Right.
Uh,
Well, you know, and what's interesting though about like what you're talking about is, as far as the attributes thing and swords versus tears, that kind of thing. Somewhere along the line, like the equality thing made sense,
yeah,
and it still makes sense in a certain situation, right? So it starts out with we want women to vote in elections. We want women to have this particular opportunity afforded to them that they don't presently have afforded to them. that sort of equality makes sense, but somehow, like over some time, we wanted to start, and this isn't just like with the feminism thing. It's everywhere. It's like we want to start pretending like everyone is the same, and in every conceivable way. Not so. It's not so much about the equality in the sense that we want everyone to have the same opportunities, but we want to like pretend that everyone is just the same, has the same base stats, and we're going to pretend we live in that world. And if you say that we're not, then you're some kind of bigot, and it's a weird thing to me because it's one of these things that's obviously just not fucking true.
Yeah.
It's just obviously not true. So why can't you see when the reasonable request for equality in a certain situation morphs into this bizarre, like science fiction world thing that's just that you're turning it into? Like, why? I guess it was so gradual, like gradually accepted that nobody noticed
Yeah.
until now. A few people are pointing it out, and of course they're getting shit on.
Yeah.
But it's like these things are just a certain fucking way, and you need to accept it if you want to like make any legitimate progress, right? As a fucking society, just accept the things that are. Quit fucking kicking and screaming, and just get there, right? And there are things that we can work on that are feasible and make sense. There's a lot of it. There's a lot of shit that we can really focus all this energy on that we're using up on like this completely futile garbage.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's all that fucking calories that you are burning on this equality, this version of equality that doesn't exist. You could be burning on the shit that's important and that we really do need to focus on
Yeah.
for people. And it's just why are you doing this? And
Yeah.
a lot of it, I think, is just people wanting to feel like they fall on the right side of an issue, and that's sort of the grandstanding thing, and they're just too
Yeah.
fucking afraid to challenge it, and they want to feel like everybody's gonna like them and they're right.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more satisfying than actually being right. Like, I
Yeah.
promise. There is just nothing more fucking satisfying than that. Like, it is so much better to be right and disliked than it is to fucking, feel like everybody likes you and just be a moron and hold a really moronic position that you cannot fucking prove or support with any kind of evidence or fucking reason or facts or any goddamn thing approaching that. And it's so much better just to be right and have people not fucking like you. I'm
Yeah.
fine with it. It doesn't bother me a bit. I'll fucking sleep just fucking fine tonight. Absolutely fine being right. I will
Well, and
sleep
that's
in
the
my-
thing is like if you look at especially male feminists, they're the worst. I mean, you examine their position and you think this isn't ideology. This is just the most cowardly pandering I've ever seen or heard.
Mhm.
It's just white knighting, and really what you in the chauvinistic behavior, just thinly masked as some sort of I don't know, positive statement on women's independence or whatever. But like I said, it's like you said before, and I was saying, it's this dehumanization of women. It's like, oh, what, are you opening a pickle jar there, sweetheart? Here, let me help you with that. You're so brave and strong, Let me help you with that. Oh, what are you doing? Earning a parity in the workplace, and trying to having some kind of social revolution. It's okay. Don't exert yourself. I'll handle that for you. It's okay. You just go do whatever.
Feminism, the word, is one of these words. Like, I'm going to assume that if you are, all right, if you define yourself as a feminist in the sense that you're not, it's not in a crazy fucking maniac way where it's just, if you are of the mindset that women deserve some equality in this world as far as the opportunities that are afforded to them and as far as the way they're treated with the same dignity as every other human being walking around, right? If that's where you're falling, all right, if you're a smart, like if I know you and you are an intelligent person, I'm going to go ahead and assume you think those things, right? Like, doesn't every rational human being on the planet feel that way by default? And what's with the label you're heaping on yourself? Usually when you are digging your heels in and just saying, I'm going to use this word, there's usually more to your feminism than what I just said. 90% of the time. So I think that's why, for me, I frown on people who are just fucking clinging to that word, like, and they need to use that word, and they need to like do that thing where they're just describe themselves that way. Like, I'm going to assume that everything I just said is how you feel because I know you and you're rational and you're reasonable and you're smart. So why wouldn't you think that? But I guarantee you're going into some weird territory with that, with the way you describe yourself. There's got to be some caveats here that I haven't discovered yet. But give it time. This shit'll come out. I don't know what kind of shit you're into, but it'll fucking come out sooner or later if you're obsessing over that label. And it's one of those labels that means so fucking many things to so many people. And I mean, even though the people who self-identify that way can't agree on what the fuck it should mean and what the proper use of it is. So when you're throwing yourself into that mess, it just seems it's deliberate, and I would like to know why. And I'm sure that if I wait long enough, I'll find out. So that's where I fall on it. Like, just bottom line, if you're using that word commonly, there's a reason, and it has nothing to do with the shit that I said, with the kind of equality that every human being sort of deserves as far as their opportunities and the dignity that they're afforded and things like that. Nobody except for some really like fringe people think otherwise, right? But then these people like they get the equality thing confused, like I was talking about a moment ago with the sane kind of equality that everyone should expect, and then this weird thing where we pretend like nobody's different from anybody else. And I have a feeling that people who cling to that label fall into that latter category. They kind of fall into that weird, let's pretend like there's nobody's different from anybody else, and that's the kind of world we live in.
Yeah.
We're just going to fantasize that way. Okay, like if you really need to be like, if you really need to feel like you're on the right side of the issue as to not be ridiculed and cast out or some shit that badly, I pity you. But I don't know. It's a sad situation. I don't know. And I'm sure a lot of people hear that and they go, "Yeah, fuck you, man. I'll fucking call myself a feminist because that's what I am." And blah, blah. Okay, yeah. And my point is originally, yeah.
Oh
dude,
wait, let me interject. We found I think it was Classholes or someone found someone who said, "Yeah, I used to call myself." This is a guy. He says, "I used to call myself a feminist, but I realized that as a man, it's not my choice to decide whether I'm a feminist."
Those words exactly.
Yeah, I mean, he said
Damn.
that it's up to women to decide whether I'm a proper feminist, or whether I can be a feminist. It was so fucking stupid.
That's fucking. See, that's what I'm talking about, man. It's that kind of shit that just like, how does that happen to a person's brain? Yeah, I mean, you have got some
It's
severe
because it's
fucking
pandering.
damage.
It's because it's pandering.
Yeah,
You realize that despite all the fucking victim mentality, women are like 51% of the population, and they vote more per capita. So like it's like it's like these people are all fucking running for office. I think they took one look at their like demographic page on their site or blog or whatever, and are like, holy shit, I can't piss these people off. So if I can just keep them happy, and then the guys will just sort of self-flagellate and not say anything, then I'm covered, right?
Yeah.
It's just pandering, pure, just telling a certain demographic whatever the fuck that you think they want to hear.
Right.
Yeah, but anyway, going back to pissing on people's legs, if you were to say, about feminism, that it was really about the promotion of, the advancement of women in our society, I actually don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't think there's anything wrong with people saying, look, we're for the advancement of women in our society, right? And I know some people say, well, if we made a group for men saying, and I'm like, yeah, it's a double standard. I'm just saying that there's nothing necessarily wicked or evil or horrible about that.
Sure.
It's just you're more dedicated to a particular group. It's not the end of the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're like, no, it's not about that at all. No, that's rain. I'm not pissing on your leg at all. And it's like equality, equality, equality. And then, of course, you're like, okay, well, what about fucking signing women up for the selective service? They're like, oh, well, you sound like an MRA. It's like, what the fuck? It has fuck all to do with equality.